I'm joined by Dr. Faleh Al-Khayat. He's a former Director General of Planning at the Iraqi Ministry of Oil. He joins me in the studio now. Thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure, Maryam.
Okay, so we were hearing there from Mohammed Al-Aryan. He's saying, look, Libya is the first major oil exporting country to be hit by this kind of violence. How concerned should we be about the impact this is going to have on the price of oil on the oil markets?
In January this year, Maryam, Libya produced 1.6 million barrels per day. If you add that to 0.7 million barrels per day of Egypt, and the threat of Yemen, which 0.3 million barrels per day, they all add up. This is more than 2 million barrels per day under a threat. How can the market respond? Can we recompensate for that? OPEC in January of this year produced 2 million barrels per day, more than its official quota.
More than it. So you don't think OPEC needs to do more to bring down the price of oil?
They had an official quota 2.46. They produced the OPEC 11 2 million barrels per day, more than that already, which has eaten up the spare capacity available.
No, but they're saying there is more spare capacity that they
Well, there are
can
people who say there
more.
are spare capacity. There is about 4 million barrels per day spare capacity. But where? Others say that they think the OPEC 11 are really producing at their maximum. And that stands
so
to reason.
They couldn't export more if they wanted.
A barrel, Maryam, who will pull back? I mean, everybody wants to make a killing out of the supplies.
So what are you saying? This political, economic crisis in the region could mean an oil crisis?
There is a problem of, eventually, problem of supply. The stock, the oil stock, crude oil stock in the world has fallen in the past 2 months. You see, they are eating out of their stock. Eventually, they have to make up that stock. They'll start buying again during the summer, where the demand may drop a bit, and that will keep the prices up very, very high.
So you think this upward trend in oil prices is definitely going to continue?
Yes. I think
How high could we
OPEC
go?
cannot really respond to compensate. They may cover Libya, but if another major country like Algeria go, for example.
We've hardly spoken about Algeria, actually. Algeria was even before Tunis. We saw protests there a month ago, and actually they're still going on. Should we be giving more attention to Algeria?
Algeria is more critical because Algeria, on top of the 1.3 million barrels per day of oil it produces, it's a major supplier of gas to Southern Europe, you see, and to Europe. So Algeria is really critical. I mean, the world supply at the moment cannot take both Libya and Algeria.
So you're talking about an oil crisis. You're talking about a political...
Maryam, I don't know.
Okay, so what about Iraq?
Well, Iraq, if all goes well, it's producing now 2.6 million barrels per day, which is incidentally is less than just before the occupation in 2003. If things go according to plan, nobody is expecting Iraq to do more than 3 million barrels per day, which is 400,000 barrels per day above the present rate of production. It just cannot do more.
Iraq is exporting less now than it did under Saddam Hussein?
It did, yeah, it did.
How much oil production capacity will Iraq add this year?
400,000 barrels per day to the present 2.6. It cannot do more.
It can't do more. So it wouldn't be in a position...
It's after 2013 where Iraq will pick up in the production.
And this is the problem, that it's not going to be in a position to fill a supply gap, essentially, when production in countries like Libya starts to decrease, which we're already seeing as foreign companies pull out. But Iraq has announced some pretty ambitious oil targets for the next 5 to 7 years, plans to reach even 12 million barrels a day.
That's Iraq.
Iraq, is this realistic for Iraq?
Well, if we're talking about medium term, they're talking about 12 million barrels per day. But everybody who have studied this cannot even consider that is possible. There are limitations to this, the volume of work, the drilling work, and even the infrastructural of export limitation. So the expectation is that in 6-7 years' time, there will be 6 million barrels per day of production as a more realistic figure.
So we're not seeing enough, and we're not seeing enough progress with regards to upgrading infrastructure, pipelines, ports, things like that.
There are contracts, of course. There is a major contract in the south. But on the ground itself, inside Iraq, it's really disappointing. It has not really geared up to expectations. But maybe this is an incentive for the major oil companies who have won these contracts to start really building up a production in Iraq. But they are under no contractual obligation to do so. The first 3 years of the contracts, they don't have to increase more than 1 million barrels per day.
Right.
That's even under contract, Maryam.
Okay, well, you know, it was really good to get your thoughts, not just on Iraq, but also on the unrest that we've been seeing elsewhere and the impact that it's having in the markets. Dr. Faleh Al-Khayat, former Director General of the Planning at the Iraqi Oil Ministry. But thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
You can come in again. Thank you.
Yeah.